When the green flag flew for the final time last week at Michigan, second place in the champion Daniel Knight watched as championship leader Bradley Hawley disappeared behind him with engine troubles as Daniel fought for the win. His chance at regaining the lead in the points evaporated out of turn 2 on the final lap as the multi-car incident saw John LaBaff streaking home to win as the field wrecked around him. This week, though, the drivers head to an untested, unknown version of Daytona Road Circuit to try and regain their footing after the calamity of last week. Is Bradley Hawley uncatchable, or will Daniel Knight show that he's in this championship fight to the end? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the penultimate round of the Precision Racing League NASCAR Truck Series, sponsored by WEBB Hearing Centers. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Adam Lindgren, and joining me in the booth is Chris Foby. Our director tonight will be the boss man Joe Peak, and he's using cameras provided by the great Dougie Beard. Daytona has hosted many legendary races on many different layouts over the years. Tonight adds one more layout to the quiver, and to find out more about this famous circuit, let's head down to our track guide.
Welcome to the Daytona International Speedway. While many oval fans associate this Central Florida track with mainly NASCAR, the road course has gained just as much worldwide fame thanks to it hosting motorcycles and sports cars for decades. In fact, the flagship road race, the 24 Hours of Daytona, has become a major draw for drivers of all disciplines, many eager to have a go at endurance racing. The stats make this place sound relatively simple, with 12 turns spread among 3.5 miles. Indeed, a majority of the lap is spent on the oval portion, where you fly along the notoriously steep banking. But it's easy to underestimate the challenge presented to the drivers. The infield portion begins with the scary kinked entry of turn 1. Not only is it the fastest part of the track, but the transition from the banking to the flat tends to upset the car as you slow it down. There's also the bus stop chicane on the backstretch. Added in the 80s, this is a tricky piece of circuit that punishes a poor exit severely, with it leading back into the latter half of the oval. As you'd expect, the long periods on throttle mean that drafting tends to play a factor in the racing. It also means passing isn't usually too great of an issue if you have the pace to catch someone. The more difficult thing is managing to gap your opponent so that they don't ride in your slipstream once you get by. With half a century of endurance racing collected among these walls, it's not unfair to say that road racers have just as much claim to call Daytona home. Fans who come to watch certainly won't be disappointed by the high speeds and fantastic thrills it invariably provides each year.
There you saw a couple of laps around Daytona International Speedway and in a couple of different lighting settings and a couple different layouts, but this is a new layout to everybody, Chris, and it came up pretty last minute. Why don't you talk us through what you know about this?
Well, thanks to our friends at NASCAR, we now have a new chicane that will make up the final turns on this track, which is going to be a huge change. But this is a great road course that's really seen a lot of action over the centuries. It seems like racing here since the early days of stock car racing. They have a lot of technical parts of this track that will challenge these drivers to show off their road racing skills, and also the best parts of the oval to allow for some passing opportunities, drafting, and all that fun stuff. It's going to be a matter of compromising your lap to have the best technical prowess as well as the best flat-out speed. So these guys are in for a very unique challenge here on this updated course.
They definitely are, but one person who's not up to a unique challenge is our series sponsor, WEBB Hearing Centers. They have been family owned and operated since 1972, and they offer top quality hearing aids and service in Arizona. You want to visit them at webhearingcenters.com. That is web with 2 B's. Webhearingcenters.com. Their link will be in the description as well. And Chris, why don't you tell us about our league sponsor?
That's right. Our league sponsor is the ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Visit thebuttkicker.com today to view their full line of products.
Got about 9 minutes left in practice, so that gives us some time to talk about the championship standings. Now, as I said, Daniel Knight had a really good opportunity to try and take the lead away from Bradley Holly going into the last green flag run last week, but unfortunately for him, that wreck ended up netting him 13th position on the grid at the end of the race, which means Bradley Holly maintains his lead over Daniel Knight, but it has been chopped down a little bit, down to only 17 points. But with only 2 rounds to go, that's going to make things very difficult for Daniel to catch back up. Thomas Sink is probably a bit too far back at this point, 20 points back of Daniel Knight, and Jared Mogard definitely too far back to get up onto the top spot, but he could possibly challenge Thomas Sink for a spot on the podium. Brendan Chatley, only 3 points behind him, isn't out of the podium challenging either, so it's going to be very interesting to see who comes out with that final spot on the podium when we get to the end of the season. Chris, why don't you take us through the teams?
That's right. The WEBB Jelly Rolls Racing team has a pretty commanding lead at the moment, 58 markers over the Riding Shotgun Rangers, which is a pretty healthy lead, but that battle for the second spot is one that is very hot right now. Just 2 points between the Riding Shotgun Rangers and the WEBB Back Row Racing Squad. Car Ramrod pretty comfortably in that 4th position. And then hanging out in 5th, a decent distance back, is the Rescue Racing Camo Rescue Squad, trying to keep touch to the rest of our top 5.
Yeah, we know those Riding Shotgun guys would love to take some of that championship glory away from the WEBB guys. But now on to our race details. For those of you who are new to this series or just new to racing in general, this is round 9 of 10 here at the PRL NASCAR Truck Series. They're driving the NASCAR Gander RV and Outdoors Series trucks. They're going to be doing 25 laps around this new layout and only 24 incidents to play with, so that means they have to be a little bit careful with some off tracks around here. They have 3 spare sets of tires in the pits, but likely will probably only use one of them. But they also have no spare trucks, so if they get any damage or find themselves in the tire barriers early on, that's going to be a little bit of a problem for them. All right, Chris, we're seeing a lot of drivers take some times around here, but one of the things I've noticed is that the lead in practice was pretty far out at some points. Bradley Holly was leading by about a second, but Daniel Knight's been able to close that down to 2 seconds as far as the practice times are concerned.
Yeah, Daniel Knight has been very meticulous in getting this track dialed in and trying to figure out the quick way around. And when we first checked in this evening, Bradley Holly had a second advantage over the rest of the field. But Daniel Knight is just doing a tremendous job getting this track figured out, and he may be the top challenger, not just for the championship, but for the win today as well.
Daniel Knight doing an excellent job on these tires. Look at how wobbly it is coming out of these corners. These trucks may not have the power that the NASCAR Cup Series has, but they definitely are a challenge to get off of these slow corners because these trucks really aren't built for the road courses. But it's always awesome to see them race around here, especially when they go into these hard braking zones like here for the bus stop chicane.
That's right. The trucks are one of my favorite divisions to watch road race, even in the real-world NASCAR races, because these trucks seem so ill-equipped to race on a road course. It's kind of... It's almost like taking a knife to a gunfight, except everybody's got knives and nobody knows what to do with them.
Yeah, and we watched one of their practice starts earlier on, and when they came up to turn 3 and 4, things got a little bit complicated. So look to make sure that the mid-pack and the backpack play a little bit cautious going into those corners, because we don't want to see a wreck like we saw in their practice start. Now, this series, that, by the way, always has a little bit of messy practice starts when they're doing them in practice, but usually when it comes to the race time, they're fairly clean, especially in the recent couple of races.
That's right. These guys have really done a great job this season, for the most part, keeping the races and their starts pretty clean. They have instituted a new penalty point system, which we've touched on a few times, and I think that's really helped clean things up in this series and has really allowed for a lot of great racing.
Speaking of that, both of the drivers who had penalties from last round served them last round, so looks like we will be clean and clear for everybody going forward into this race. We're looking at Tristan Callahan right now, who's been going around in 6th position. Tristan's had his own struggles with trying to get this track underneath him, but he's been very quick throughout this entire series, and so I'm looking forward to seeing him up towards the sharp end of the field today if he can get a good qualifying time in. Nicholas Hunter coming around here, currently in the 13th position. Another driver I'm keeping my eyes on is Mark Kalin. He had a penalty starting off last week, but he is in an opportune position to really make some progress in the points championship and make some progress on track as well. He's been very strong at shorter tracks and tracks that require a lot more braking, so I'd expect to see him up towards the sharp end of the field today as well.
Yeah, Mark Phelan's one of those drivers that's really just waiting for luck to kind of fall his way. He's had some incidences here and there that really have kind of probably kicked him while he was down. But he's one of those drivers that with a few little twists of luck, he could definitely be somebody we see towards the front of the field.
As we see Mark Kalin take that new chicane, Bradley Holly takes another 2, almost 3/10 out of Daniel Knight. He's got about a half-second gap, as you can see on the left-hand column there. Now, if that left-hand column ain't doing it for you, or you want to just take a look at some of the points, some of the statistics yourself, we encourage you to go take a look at GSRC.TV. That is our live timing and scoring that's going to be on during this race. So if we're not featuring the driver that you want to pay attention to, go ahead and hop onto GSRC.TV to keep track of your favorite drivers as they race around the track. Or take a look at Barron Hilton, who has yet to set a representative time coming into that new chicane. This new chicane has been catching a lot of drivers out, and many drivers are taking it very cautiously through here.
I can't say that I blame them. For one thing, they're using those gigantic turtle curbs that they have at the Charlotte Roval, which those can do a number on your truck, whether suspension damage or just launching you into orbit, which is fitting since we're in Florida. So that alone is a deterrent to overcook that corner.
Yeah, just up ahead of Barron Hilton was Thomas Sink, another driver who's just starting off now as we take a look at Brendan Walter being chased around. But Thomas Sink, he's been one of those drivers that has been fairly consistent, but has just been caught out by some bad luck in recent races. He's currently third on the time charts in this practice, and he's been very quick in qualifying as well, but the race results just have not been coming the way that he would like them to recently.
Yeah, Thomas Sink is easily one of the fastest drivers in this field and shows it on a weekly basis, but just another one of those guys that has just had absolutely no luck this season. He was one of our top contenders for the championship the previous season, but has just been absolutely devastated by poor race luck.
Now, Daniel Knight right now is on track right behind Charles Sumner. Charles Sumner, unfortunately, was the truck that sort of kicked off last week's major incident that happened on the last lap that cost Daniel Knight possibly a win. As we see Daniel coming through that chicane, Charles Sumner actually blew through the chicane to get to the pit road. And that's an interesting factor that I haven't thought about is, do you have to take the chicane to get to pit road? Will that cause you a penalty, or will you be able to slow it down enough in time by the time you cross the line that you could just blow it?
You know, that's one of the things that we guess haven't figured out yet. This track is so new to everybody, real world and iRacing world. So some of this, as far as going around the rules for this final chicane, are going to be stuff we have to figure out on the fly just because it's so new.
Well, as we get ready we have about 50 seconds left in practice. We take a look at Barron Hilton, who just crosses the line now, a 2-minute lap. Barron Hilton finally puts in a representative time, but he's about 5 seconds off the pace for the top runners. So a lot of drivers really starting to struggle with this road course. They were planning on doing Watkins Glen, but then the change happened from NASCAR, which sort of cascaded over here to iRacing, so these drivers having to tackle an entirely new course on very short notice. I'm pretty sure that they just received word of this this weekend, so things were very, very tense for them. Austin Hunter currently in the 9th spot as he's coming in, and Thomas Sink crossing the line to try and get, well, not crossing the line, he's just now going through turns 3 and 4, coming up to that hard chicane. He will not be able to get a final practice time in before we tick over to qualifying. Now, for those of you who've been looking at this racing and the practices and are thinking to yourself, man, you know what? It'd be great to see my name in lights or my company's name in lights here on GSRC. Well, we have advertising options available to you. The GSRC channel boasts over 1 million global monthly impressions, and our branding opportunities include official series sponsorships, ad reads, race awards, and more. Follow the link in the description to learn more about our advertising opportunities, and we look forward to seeing your company up here on our banners soon. Now, a couple of drivers getting out there to start their qualifying sessions, Adam Zemke being one, Barron Hilton another, and here comes Thomas Sink out of the pit lane.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what kind of lap Thomas Sink puts down. He's been one of our quickest qualifiers all year, and this track is a bit of an anomaly from some of the other courses we run. So very excited to see the lap he'll put in.
Another thing to notice, they've extended the qualifying time from 5 minutes to 10 minutes because they would not have been able to get a qualifying time in with just a 5-minute timer. So 10 minutes will be the time for qualifying. It is lone qualifying, so all these drivers are out on track by themselves. That being said, track wear does increase over the time when these drivers are on track, and it will increase based upon all the track usage that happens from all the drivers, so they have to be very careful.
Yeah, especially on road course racing, the distance between yourself and those around you can really make a huge difference in qualifying as far as when you hit the track and when everything's spaced out. So these guys are gonna definitely need to time this one just right.
He definitely will. We're taking a look at Daniel Knight going through the bus stop chicane. Not exactly the greatest bus stop chicane he had that time. Pretty straight exit, but he was a little bit slow through the center. So good thing that this is not his first time lap yet. So he heads up to the top of the track to try and get as much of a slingshot off of the corner as possible. Daniel Knight now coming up to that chicane. And he's going to try and tackle that with good exit speed, and that will get him a good launch onto his first time lap. And it looks like pretty much everybody is out there right now, Bradley Hawley included, Thomas Sink, Daniel Knight, all three of our top championship contenders currently out there trying to set laps.
I tell you, after racing on ovals this whole season, these 2-minute out laps are catching me off guard a little bit.
Yeah, I was almost about to say that he was about to come around and say his first lap time, but then I remembered he hadn't crossed the line yet, so this will be his first attempted lap. So Daniel Knight, Carolina driver, just now heading into this really quick kink here. This one will probably get some drivers out, especially considering the fact that if they go too wide through there, things can get really spicy.
Yeah, this is one thing that's kind of interesting about a few different parts of this course is you're gonna have to outbrake your opposition quite a bit. There's a lot of spots where two trucks just aren't gonna fly racing side by side.
So a fascinating update. Bradley Hawley actually abandoned his out lap. Apparently something not right with that truck, so he's definitely he's adjusting his setup, and he will go out a little bit later. We still have 7 minutes left in qualifying, so he's still got plenty of time to set a lap. I'm not sure he'll be able to get 2 in with this much time, but here's Daniel Knight once again on his current lap, about 1:17 currently on the timer as he goes through the bus stop chicane.
Yeah, this looks like a pretty smooth lap so far for Daniel.
Yeah, good smooth lap from him for sure as he's heading back up to that high side to try and get a good exit off the corner so he can hit this chicane well. This chicane, once again, new for this series. Here we go. He clips that curb there, clips the next one, and looks like he hits a little bit of that sausage curb. Not exactly the best exit from Daniel. Let's see what kind of time he puts in.
That's not a bad lap at all.
A 1:55.249 is his first lap. By reference, Bradley Hawley's fastest lap in practice was a 1:54.847. Hawley just leaving the pit lane now. Stacey Hunter will be the next to cross the line, as we have a couple more times in. Blaine Adam puts in a time of 1:57.241. Adam Zemke, 1:58.273. Both of them multiple seconds off of Daniel Knight's time.
You know, with the tight limitations on time for this, though, some of the drivers that are able to get 2 laps in may have a very decided advantage over some of the drivers that maybe got a later start.
Brendan Challey coming across the line, a 1:56.213. And Tristan Callahan actually jumps up to second with a 1:55.870. About 6/10 off of Daniel Knight's time. We're seeing a big spread here, but that's not that surprising, though, considering how new this track is and how little practice time they've had on it.
Yeah, I think we're going to see drivers that really get quicker as the race goes on. Maybe not on the timesheets, but as far as how they're handling the track. Just because the more reps they get out there, the more they learn the course, the quicker they're going to be.
Nicholas Hunter crosses the line, a 2:461 second lap time. So that's unfortunately last on the timing sheets right now. I believe Daniel Knight's current lap will be discounted. I believe he clipped the the grass coming out of the bus stop chicane. So Austin Hunter crosses the line with a 1:57.706. That's going to be good enough for 8th position. Ooh, that was definitely into the wall from Daniel.
That's definitely going to invalidate that lap time.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Daniel Knight is not going to get that second lap in. You can see it not validating right there. Adam Zemke will fortunately get his second lap time in, I believe. He's going to cross the line right now, and it is a little bit quicker, about 0.2 quicker. Let's see whether or not that sticks, and it does. It's a 1:58.066. So that's going to be good enough for the 9th position. But Bradley Holly on his first representative lap now. Here he comes around the sharp corner in the loop. Let's see whether or not Bradley can put in a good time here. He doesn't have much time to get those laps in. Only 3.5 minutes left in qualifying.
I was going to say, with about 1.5 minutes left on this lap and so little time left, is he going to have time to get 2 laps in, you think, Adam?
It'll be close. It's going to be very close for him, considering the fact that we've got about 2-minute lap times, like you said. So I don't believe he'll be able to get 2 in, so he'll have to hope that this one works out for him. When it comes to road courses, track position is everything, so if he can't get up there onto the top row, he's going to be in big trouble when it comes to the fact that his championship contender right now, Daniel Knight, currently sits on pole position.
And you got to think, even if he is one of the quickest drivers in the field, if he ends up starting towards the back, he's got to sift his way through a lot of drivers that aren't super familiar with this course. And that could make for a very difficult day for him and his championship hopes.
And with no spare car, or spare truck rather, oh, that was extremely loose coming out of the bus stop chicane. He fortunately keeps it out of the wall, but that's going to knock some time off of his lap time, especially because he's coming up to the second fastest part of the course, which is turns 3 and 4. He stays down low, a little bit lower than Daniel Knight, and he starts to go towards that high side. He doesn't get quite as high up as Daniel Knight did, this shallow entry, but he's going to take a lot of sausage curb that time around to try and get a good exit off of the corner. He might be able to claw back a little bit of time here. But Bradley Holly coming up to the line. He crosses the line at 147 miles an hour, and a 155.412 is good enough for second position. And I don't believe he may be able to get a second lap in, actually. It's just within time. He'll have about 3 seconds at the line.
Yeah, he cut it about as close as possible to being able to make that second lap as we follow along with Colton Lane here.
And I can report that Bradley Holly will abandon that second lap. So here's Colton Lane. He will be one of our last people to finish a lap around here. So Colton coming out, and he has not set a lap yet. Actually, quite a few drivers who haven't set a lap yet. Doyle Lawrence, Adam Young, William Lee, Mike Richter even, Matthew Aubrey. Mike Richter, who is 4th place in practice, has not set a lap and doesn't look like he will qualify. He'll set a qualifying time. So Colton Lane, as he comes through the final chicane, let's see what kind of lap he can put in. Colton firing off of the final corner. He crosses the line, and Colton Lane will get a 1:59.670. Only good enough for 16th position. You can see his frustration.
Yeah, you got to think there's probably a good amount of those drivers that are maybe foregoing qualifying in hopes of starting towards the back of the field. With this being a pretty unfamiliar course, you got to think turn 1 has the potential to be pretty chaotic.
Jose Medina will abandon his lap and head towards pit lane. So a lot of drivers with some serious frustrations with the track right now. Paul Johnson, he's got about 30 seconds to make it back to the line. I believe he will. It's going to be close, though. He's only 7 1/1000ths away from Blaine Adams in 9th position. So if he can improve on this lap time by even just a little bit, he'll move up 1 position on the grid.
So now Paul D. Johnson completing his lap time, trying to improve his 1:57.248. And looks like it's going to be pretty close. Looks like he's not able to better his time.
So with him being the last one to cross the line, that will take us to the grid. And quite a few drivers did not set qualifying times. But on pole is Daniel Knight, who will be alongside Bradley Holly, who will start outside of him. Tristan Callahan will line up right in behind Daniel Knight, with Mark Kalin lining up in 4th. Aaron Webb will line up on row 3 alongside Brendan Chatley. Then we have Thomas Sink and Doug Evans in row 4, with Blaine Adams and Paul Johnson rounding out your top 10.
Just outside of the top 10 is going to be Brandon Walter in the 99 truck, starting 11th with Austin Hunter to his outside. Adam Zemke and Brett Adams will compose row number 8, with Charles Sumner and Colton Lane following behind them. 17th on the grid is going to be Barron Hilton in the 02 truck, with Stacy Hunter to his outside. And then our last 2 drivers to make a qualifying attempt, completing your top 20, are going to be Nicholas Hunter in 19th and Jose Medina in 20th.
Drivers that did not set qualifying times are Mike Richter, Matthew Aubrey, Adam Young, William Lee, and Doyle Lawrence. They will line up in championship point running order, and they will round out your 25 trucks on the grid today. We have the Porsche pace car that has made its way out onto the track today. So the series loves to use a different smattering of pace cars that we get around here. And so it looks like it's going to be the iRacing Porsche safety car that will be out there on the grid for them today. But man, Daniel Knight versus Bradley Holly into turn 1 under hard braking. Who do you put your chips on today, Chris?
It's hard to count out Bradley Holly. He's shown time and time again why he's champion in this series. And Daniel Knight is definitely going to give it his all. I don't doubt that for 1 second, but it's hard to bet against Bradley Holly.
So do you think that this is going to be a tire game, this race? Because there's one thing we haven't talked about is the weather here. It is 116 degrees Fahrenheit on track right now. That is 47 degrees Celsius. And so it's 78 degrees in the air, so it's not that hot for these guys here at Daytona. But it definitely could come into play, their tire strategies.
Oh yeah, you got to think this is definitely going to be a tire game. Just being able to keep them underneath you is going to be a huge challenge. There's a lot of heavy braking zones on this track. There's a lot of drivers that aren't super comfortable with this track, which could lead to maybe some hard braking incidents where they maybe wear out the tires a little bit quicker than normal due to maybe some flat spotting or some bad braking.
So as they get ready to head, they're heading through turns 3 and 4 right now. They will take that chicane. I don't believe Charles Sumner is giving them a little bit of a briefing right now. We'll get a little bit of an updated word on to whether they're going to take the chicane heading to the green flag. We know that they don't when they do it in, when they actually race here in real life. But here comes the Porsche pace car, and is going to take them through the chicane. So they will take the chicane here. And the pace car will peel off right before they go onto the dogleg. Daniel Knight currently in control. He's going to wait. He's going to wait. Now he goes. A few of the trucks in the back were not quite lined up yet, but Daniel Knight launching. Bradley Holly getting a good launch on the outside as well. Here they go into the braking into turn 1. This is the first time they have entered this corner ever in a racing scenario. Oh, and contact behind. Tristan Callahan wipes out the 85 truck as well. That's the top 5 knocked out. Daniel Knight currently leads over Bradley Holly, Mark Kalin, Thomas Sink, and Blaine Adams.
Well, that definitely did not take long, Adam. Kind of as we suspected, turn 1. Definitely an incident point here at the start of this race.
An incident point, and those guys definitely have incident points as well. We have another spinner in the back. That's Aaron Webb in the 85 truck, but currently right now Daniel Knight only holding about a quarter of a second lead over Bradley Holly, who's right up to his rear bumper as they come through the infield section. They're about to exit back. Ooh, wow, a little bit of a loose moment there for Bradley Holly, but look at all these trucks trying to snake their way through here on the infield sector. It's tight racing back in the back of the pack.
Thank goodness for GSRC.TV, Adam, keeping up with all these up-to-the-minute position changes. This stuff is absolute insanity.
We have a truck around in the back of the field. That's Nicholas Hunter. He will line up and try and get back forward, but here we go. Look at this battle for the lead. Daniel Knight and Bradley Holly. Bradley Holly's going to look to the outside. Daniel Knight being defensive, but here Bradley Holly doing the over-under as they go into the braking zone into the chicane. And it was very close.
Yeah, it looked like Holly may have snookered him for a second, but Daniel Knight able to shut the door as they head into turns 3 and 4 of the oval track. It's now going to be basically a drag race into the final chicane at this point.
Man, if you thought those guys weren't fast, they've already pulled 1.6 seconds over Mark Kalin, currently in the 3rd position. Yes, some of that was earned because of the incident that happened behind them, but these 2 guys are in a world of their own currently, fighting for the lead as they go through this new chicane for the first time.
Well, we saw it even in practice and qualifying, Adam. These 2 drivers are definitely the class of the field, as they've shown throughout this season why they're the top 2 in our championship. These are 2 elite drivers as far as this series goes, and I'm excited to watch them duke it out on this very technical course.
We already had one driver miss the new chicane. That was Barron Hilton. He unfortunately had to take a slowdown, still trying to serve it at the moment, but look at this. Up front, It is still very tight between the top two runners, but man, it is starting to string out in the middle of the pack. More drivers are really struggling with these tight turns and these hard braking zones.
Yeah, this track is a challenge of all sorts of different types. You have the very tight infield section of this track, which is really difficult to traverse, and then you have to transition up to the oval. These drivers are, some are taking it to like a duck to water, and others are taking it like a rock to water.
So Bradley Holly still right on the rear bumper of Daniel Knight. We've seen these two duke it out time and time again over this entire season. It has been an amazing battle between these two drivers, but they are very, very tight to one another as they exit back out onto the banking. They have now pulled 2.5 seconds over Mark Kalin and Thomas Sink.
You got to think Bradley Holly is a driver that can manage his tires very well. You think maybe he's just hanging out right now behind Daniel Knight, maybe trying to push him into using up what he has early on?
Nope, here he goes diving down into the bus stop chicane. He decides to take the lead over Daniel Knight, who lets him go pretty effectively there, realizing that he doesn't want to go side by side through the bus stop chicane, but move Bradley Holly up to that lead spot. Daniel Knight, not a good bus stop chicane. He's now half a second behind.
Yeah, you got to think Holly timed that just about perfectly. We saw the lap before he maybe thought about making that move, and it didn't quite work out. But it definitely did that time, as we have Adam Zemke up in the 8th position, getting around Blaine Adams in the 23.
So quite a few drivers doing some swaparoos here as they start to get their feet underneath them. As far as this track is concerned, you can see different lines heading through that new chicane. That chicane very, very fresh there. Bradley Holly with the fastest lap, a 155.444. We will likely see that drop down as they continue to race around this track and get even more familiar with these trucks around here at the Daytona Road Course. It's been a while since the trucks have raced the Daytona Road Course, Chris. All right, we're going to take a look at the replay of the start. This was the Tristan Callahan incident that happened coming out of turn 1. Here we go, taking a look at this replay. You can see the trucks in the background weren't quite lined up yet, but here they go with the green flag. Daniel Knight and Bradley Holly got a good jump. And now we need to look at that blue and green truck in the second row. He just takes the corner a little bit too quick.
Yeah, you can see here, gets into the inside barrier, and looks like the 85 of Aaron Webb gets caught up in that as well.
Yeah, so it ended up not collecting too many trucks, but collected a lot of our top qualifiers as Tristan actually came across the track once again when he tried to rejoin. So unfortunately, that ended up catching him out. But here he is on board. I think he got a little bit of help from behind, Chris.
Yeah, it looks like he may have gotten a little bit of shove that upset him. Then he hit that end of the pit wall and collected a couple other people on his way across the track. And then unfortunately, trying to get back onto the racing line, it just kind of went from bad to worse for Tristan.
Well, here's Tristan trying to regain those positions. He's currently tucked in right behind Mike Richter for the battling for the 12th position. These two drivers heading up towards the bus stop chicane. This has been a point where you can definitely make passes around here, but Tristan, oh, look at that. He gets a little bit loose under brakes and he has to cut the corner. That's unfortunately going to be a slowdown penalty. He'll have to serve that before he makes it into the next chicane at the exit of 4.
By the way, can we talk about how amazing that iRacing service is? There actually is planes landing at the airport off the backstretch here.
It's always awesome to see the activity of the Daytona International Airport as we take a look at this battle that's going on right now for P7. That's Brandon Walter up ahead of Adam Zemke and Brett Adams. Those two guys trying to cling to the back of him. Let's see who's got the better brakes into 1. Looks like everybody playing it pretty safe there, but Brett Adams actually doing a little bit of lifting as he went through 1 to try and get a little bit closer to Adam Zemke up there in the 8th position. Looks like Brandon Walters being able to hang on to that position pretty well, but Brett Adams looks like he's got a good feel for those brakes. A little bit of a lockup there as we take a look. Oh, that was actually that was Brandon Walters spinning around up ahead of them on the corner exit. We've seen a couple of truckers do this tonight.
It's one of those spots on the track where you can definitely put the hammer down a little too quick. And as we watch the replay here, just puts the pedal down a little too hard when the wheels aren't quite underneath him. Oh no, it looks like he went off track a little bit to start it off. Yeah, you put that pedal down a little too hard, it'll send you around.
So here he comes, and then he puts the pedal down, and the truck just wants to come out from underneath him. Yeah, the differentials on these trucks can't really manage the amount of weight that they're carrying with the horsepower behind it, and that's what you see happening right there. But here we go back up to that moment with Brandon Walter. We saw him for a moment, and here we go back up to the battle between Brett Adams and Adam Zemke.
Yeah, these two have been going at it the last couple laps, and we see Adams maybe going to take a look as they head towards the bus stop. Nope, he's going to maybe stay in line. Yep, stays in line.
Well, we said that Bradley Holly had about a half a second gap over Daniel Knight, but Daniel Knight has closed that back in. It looks like both he and Bradley Holly are starting to manage their tires a little bit around here. You can see them both sliding their way through that chicane. Bradley Holly, though, an excellent job exiting the corner, but he got a little bit of tire spin there. That might be heating up those rear tires and making it even harder to brake here. Daniel Knight is going to take it a little bit wide here to try and maybe just stay out of the rear bump for Bradley Holly as they go through one.
Now this is another one of those things you got to wonder: are these guys really coming back together? Is Bradley Knight or Bradley Holly combining these drivers now? Bradley Holly trying to manage his tires a little bit, maybe slow down this race.
It's definitely a possibility as we continue to watch these two front runners just duke it out between the two of them. You know that they're both trying to keep eyes on each other and make sure that they're keeping each other honest with pace. But here we go with... Oh, and we actually have a decent battle still going on between the 23 and the 42 of Brett Adams and Adam Zemke for that 7th position. Brett Adams actually got by Adam Zemke on the braking into the chicane, but Brett Adams has some hot tires, and he's starting to miss a couple of apexes here. This is opening the door for Adam Zemke a little bit.
Yeah, I gotta say, these two have easily been the best battle on the track so far in this race. They've traded positions a few times now, and have been pretty much glued to each other for the last 3 laps.
And now we've got a newcomer into this battle. That's Charles Sumner in the 98 truck. Whoa, look at that. That's the 23 of Brad Adams going very wide. Adam Zemke, though, trying to get the power down and get to the bottom of the track, but it's so hard to do through that long, sweeping, bumpy corner. He's able to do it, though. Adam Zemke up to 7th. Brett Adams down to 8th. And Charles Sumner licking his chops, looking at that 23 machine.
You got to think Charles Sumner has probably been closing in on these two, beating on each other for a while now, and he's just licking his chops, looking to pick up the scraps.
Yeah, with them swapping positions, Charles Sumner's speed, you can see him carry that speed through the corner, and that's a spinning truck up ahead of them. That was Paul D. Johnson. He was in the battle for that 4th position up ahead. He spun out, looks like coming out of the bus stop chicane. He's got some rear end damage on that machine.
Yeah, some pretty heavy damage, actually.
And this actually came from an earlier incident that was quite a bit earlier, a couple laps earlier, so he's had some major contact that has led to him having some damage. Now, fortunately, that won't affect him that much as we watch the replay of his spin exiting the bus stop chicane. He manages to keep it out of the lane of traffic, but yeah, tough stuff for him.
Did a great job of keeping his foot in the pedal through that spin, though.
Yeah, and sometimes that's the best thing to do, but as we saw at in the Spanish Grand Prix in 2018, sometimes that can also lead to disaster.
Yeah, we don't like to talk about that one.
All right, so here we watch this battle for that 6th position between Adam Zemke, Brett Adams, and Charles Sumner once again as they're tightened up, and they're about to be joined by Austin Hunter, who's gaining on them as well.
Yeah, this battle for the 6th position is really one that's, or 5th position, excuse me, really heating up, with these drivers all starting to bottleneck around that position.
And believe it or not, they're going to be joined by Tristan Callahan, Paul Johnson, and Mike Richter as well shortly. So this might become a 6-truck battle for that 6th position, all the way back down to 12th position as we ride on board with Austin Hunter as he's trying to catch his way back up to the back of his train.
Well, you know, you mentioned Formula One. This race is almost starting to shake out like a Formula One race.
Yeah, I mean, it is worth mentioning that Bradley Holly and Daniel Knight are out to a 7.5-second lead from Mark Kalin in the 3rd position. These two guys have an understanding of this truck that is borderline, I mean, carnal between these guys. They really have a great understanding of how this truck is working, and you could tell that they're just measuring each other up at this point.
And that's what has made this championship battle so much fun. These two drivers are really a great match for each other as far as competing on the track.
They definitely are, and ooh, wow, yeah, we're just taking a look now. Charles Sumner took it a little bit deep into the chicane, but so did Brett Adams. Brett actually clobbered over those sausage curbs and has a slow exit. He might have some undertrade damage that maybe will affect his engine speed, but Brett Adams loses the 7th position to Charles Sumner, and Charles has now got to try and catch up to Adam Zemke, who's been able to pull about a 2-second gap, but he takes a little bit deep. So does Brett Adams, and this has brought Austin Hunter right into the battle. They're going to go side by side as they go through the twisty section. Ooh, that was close.
One thing that's great about these drivers being so unfamiliar with this track, Adam, is the fact that everybody keeps screwing up. And it's really allowing for some great battles because somebody gains a little bit and they give it up.
That's Tristan Callahan challenging Austin Hunter now for the 9th position. Tristan has to back out of it, though, as Austin moved over a little bit to the right side to try and take that kink a little bit better. But here they go into the braking zone once again. And most of the tracks that these trucks run at when they run road courses have banking in the corners, and this is no such track. This is just completely flat throughout most of the corners here. Oh, we got 2 trucks off. That's the 312 around, and the 98 around in the tire barrier ahead of him. So
That's
Charles
definitely
Sumner around, and the 312 of Austin Hunter around as well.
So looks like Charles Sumner here may have found a new way to make orange juice.
And we're going to see it right here. You can see him getting a little bit loose, and he goes into the braking zone up here. He just squeezes that brake pedal a little bit. Oh, he clipped the outside curb a little bit, which got him upset. And then he manages to keep it mostly out of the tire barrier, so he doesn't squeeze his tires a little bit too much there. So he still keeps going, but unfortunately that puts him down in 11th position. So it is, wow, I mean, our leaders right now are their average lap time is 1.5 seconds faster than Mark Kalin in the 3rd position, as we continue to watch this battle between Brett Adams and Tristan Callahan now for the 7th position. Tristan has been gaining significantly quickly on Brett Adams here. Let's see what he does into 1.
Callahan so far measuring the 23, but looks like he might be taking a look here.
He's definitely trying to take a look. Ooh, wow, look at that. Brett Adams got a little bit loose coming through the twistier sections. He's going to try and cut off Callahan. That's a little bit risky there. With the amount of brakes that these trucks have, it's really challenging to try and get these things wound up if somebody cuts you off like that. But Tristan Callahan has been taking advantage of the truck drivers spinning behind him and trying to make the most of it.
Right, Callahan, obviously a pretty sizable setback to start his race, but he has done a tremendous job working his way back up through the field. Definitely has had some luck. Kind of like we touched on earlier, a lot of drivers making mistakes on this track, but Callahan's been in a position to capitalize, and he's doing a great job working his way back up through the field.
And we're seeing Brandon Walter, who just sneaks by, actually it's Brendan Chatley, who just sneaks by Brandon Walter there for the 15th position. That was a tight battle. These guys have been really tight together. And this, we're seeing Austin Hunter tucked in behind them as well. Austin trying to recover from his spin. That's Charles Sumner, or rather Doyle Lawrence up ahead, who's trying to recover from a spin himself. But this was a very tight battle for a couple of moments through the infield sector, and it doesn't look like it's going to go away. Brandon Walter in the slipstream of Brendan Chatley for that 15th position.
I gotta say, I think this might be my favorite part of this track, Adam, is watching these guys bust tail down that back straightaway and then get it woed up and go through this bus stop and then have to get right back up on it. Now they're fed into the banking of turns 3 and 4 on the oval track, and this is just such a fun course to watch.
It definitely is. Oh, and we have to go back to the battle between Tristan Callahan and Brett Adams, because Brett Adams took that chicane very, very deep. Tristan Callahan had to woe it up a lot, but Brett Adams has to take a cut course penalty. That's going to slow him down a lot. He drops 3 positions in that battle, all the way back down to 10th, move Tristan Callahan up to 7th. And, I mean, we've talked about it before, but we're going to see it on the replay here. But Tristan has just been working really hard at being consistent. But look at this. Brett Adams just completely blows the corner. Good thing he dodged off it. Otherwise, he would have hit Tristan Callahan at the apex.
Yeah, when sometimes we see this in road racing where you can see the person up in front of you. And you can see him going off the track again there. But you can see your competitor in front of you slowing down. And you think, I can catch him. I can do it. And you try to brake as late as possible, and sometimes as late as possible is a little too late.
So that's Charles Sumner, who just moves by him up into the 10th position, recovering. So remember, he was a part of this battle earlier on until he had his little off-track moment that led him to drop back further. So now Brett Adams joining him back there further down the pack. So he's going to try and recover now. Let's see whether or not Brett can stay on the back of him as they go into the bus stop chicane.
I was going to say, for as detrimental as that incident seemed like it would be, Charles Sumner really didn't lose a ton of ground as far as track position. I mean, he's lost ground as far as distance, but he's still faring pretty well in the top 10.
Brett Adams makes sure that he doesn't outbrake himself into the bus stop chicane. He braked quite a bit earlier than Charles Sumner there, as we actually have another truck that's off track up here. That's Mike Richter, who has had his own troubles, as we see these two go side by side. Right behind him, Brett Adams gets a better exit off of the bus stop chicane and is able to shoot by, but what's he going to do with the slow Mike Richter as they head up towards the new chicane?
That's another factor that's going to be coming up, is how these drivers are able to manage lap traffic. Richter's actually for position, but I did see, watching our leaders, they are starting to encounter some lap traffic.
The leaders are getting close, but we see our first pit stopper of the day. Brendan Chatley has come into the pits. This is an interesting strategy. We are 10 laps into this 25-lap race, and Brendan's got some major left side damage on that thing, so he might be wanting to get some repairs done as well. But Brendan into the pits, and looks like he might be serving a penalty here? No, there goes the jacks, so up on the jacks for the left sides and the right side, so he is getting full service.
I'm interested to see how the pit lane blend works out here at this track, because it kind of spits you right out near the corner exit there, which almost seems like it'd be a little bit hairy if you maybe try to break the blend rules a little bit.
Also, this is one of the most challenging pit exits in racing. You see a lot of drivers getting into that outside wall as they try and blow that truck up, but he managed to navigate it pretty well. But we jump back up to the battle for the 9th position because Brett Adams still is struggling to get around Mike Richter, who had that earlier spin.
It seems like at this point it's almost easier to talk about who hasn't spun.
It's, I mean, it's not an easy track to race with these trucks for sure. It's very difficult to race around here in these NASCAR machines. They are not built for the road courses whatsoever. And so you know that how challenging it is when you see just how consistent and how fast these guys are around the ovals versus how challenging they're finding this road course. But we're seeing them spread out a little bit more here. Brett Adams up to the high side, Mike Richter up to the high side now too. But Brett is being very conservative on the entry into the corners. Oh, Mike Richter misses the corner. He's got to spin around. Brett Adams and Charles Sumner are through. Mike Richter spinning again, unfortunately.
Well, if his tires weren't used up, I'd say they probably are now.
And so he's going to find his way to pit lane right in behind Doyle Lawrence, who also pit ahead of him. So those two drivers finding pit lane. And Bradley Hawley is starting to snake away from Daniel Knight now in the lead of the race. They still have 12 seconds over Mark Kalin in third.
Yeah, 1.5 seconds is turning into a pretty solid advantage for Bradley Hawley. I think it's about the biggest advantage we've seen all day.
So these drivers are going to start to hit true lap traffic. I don't even know if they're going to hit it by the time we get to the end of this race. They still got 30 seconds to catch up to the next lap traffic of Baron Hilton up ahead of them. Baron just passing pit lane now, whereas Bradley Hawley and Daniel Knight are entering turns 3 and 4, so they've got a long way to go before they start to catch lap traffic. That's the benefits of the smaller field we have here today.
That and the 2-minute laps they have here probably help space them out too.
As we'll see Bradley and Daniel take these corners, my question is, when is Daniel going to take his pit stop? Is he going to try and undercut Bradley Hawley here? Or is he going to try and stay out? Because he's losing significant time to Bradley now. Those tires on the 17 truck are toast.
Yeah, but he did a pretty valiant job keeping pace with Bradley here throughout this race. But I think maybe an undercut might not be a bad idea.
So as we keep our eyes on that to try and see whether or not he's going to be able to pull that one out, we look back at Brett Adams and Charles Sumner one more time, because Charles is trying to catch up to Brett. He just can't seem to close the gap on the exit of the corners onto the straightaways, and that seems to be the best place to pass here. So as they come into the braking zones, looks like Charles has a very good truck underneath him when it comes to these braking zones. It was just clipping that outside chicane that caused the problem before, so Charles looking very consistent now. As long as he can get some good exits, he might have a better shot here.
Yeah, a lot of drivers, it seems like, are getting a little more conservative as this race goes on. Most of those drivers being the ones that have kind of pushed their limits is a little bit as further than maybe they should have earlier on. So these drivers are definitely learning to respect this course as the race goes on. Ooh, hard into the wall.
That was Matthew Aubrey outbraking himself into the new chicane with Doyle Lawrence, who has recently just pit up ahead of him. Matthew Aubrey is going to take that cut course penalty down on the low side of the track. Here's the replay. He gets passed very quickly by Doyle Lawrence. Now, keep in mind, Doyle Lawrence is one of our first truck drivers on new tires, and look how much speed he has coming out of the butt stop chicane. But Matthew does not realize, maybe he forgot the new chicane was there, but look at how quickly it comes up. Oh, that's so close.
He very nearly ran over the back of Doyle Lawrence as well, so a lucky break for Lawrence to get away from that one.
So Aubrey is still on track, but with pretty significant right side damage to that truck at this point. And look at this, Charles Sumner finally getting by Brett Adams. Let's see whether we can make it stick though, because they're coming up with the bus stop chicane. Oh, and our leaders are in. Bradley Holly and Daniel Knight come in on the same lap. I think that this is going to benefit Bradley Holly because we've seen how good he is in pit entry. Daniel Knight makes it into the box and manages to hit it. He looks like he went a little bit long, but fortunately he hits that perfectly. We'll see what the pit delta is. Bradley has been on average 2 seconds faster in pit delta time than his competitors over the last couple of races. A 32.6 for Bradley Holly on the pit lane versus the 33.5 for Daniel Knight on pit lane. That's another second gained, and Daniel Knight hits the outside wall on the exit of pit lane. That is going to hurt.
Yeah, you talked about that being a trouble zone, Adam, and looks like, unfortunately, Daniel Knight finding it.
So Daniel is now about 5 seconds back of Bradley Holly on new tires. So could not achieve the undercut, and Bradley Holly now free and clear by a large margin. And he's only 12 seconds behind Mark Kalin, who has yet to pit yet.
Yeah, so Kalin looks like may at least have some kind of advantage here, maybe going long for a small amount of time, but you got to think the tire game's not going to work in his favor.
Definitely not. Bradley Holly gained 1 full second over Mark Kalin just coming out of the infield right there. So Mark has to come in, otherwise he's going to lose even more time.
Yeah, thanks to GSRC.TV, those of you at home can see, unfortunately, that advantage is shrinking quick.
9.5 seconds back to Bradley Holly in the second position. He's already pulled another half second out of Daniel Knight. That's up to 5.5 seconds. Most of our battles around the track have broken up as we have drivers who still have yet to pit, but we can see Mark Kalin making his way to pit lane now. So let's take you back up to Adam Zemke, who's been climbing his way up through the track. He has yet to pit as well. Tristan Callahan behind him, and Brett Adams in the 6th position have yet to pit as well. So Zemke comes in, and Tristan Callahan will come in as well. So this might be how far they can go on fuel.
Well, that's another factor that we hadn't really touched on yet, is making the fuel last around this track. Some of those drivers maybe going to try to stretch it as far as they can.
And it looks like this will be as far as they can stretch it. Our final driver's coming into the pit lane now, so our running order will sort itself out here momentarily, and then we will give you a rundown of the top 10. Right now we're watching Austin Hunter, who has yet to pit, as he comes through, and he's going to duck down towards the pit lane. So, yep. Looks like all of our drivers who have yet to pit are coming in on this lap. So let's give you a little bit of a rundown from top to bottom here. Bradley Holly out in the lead by 5.5 seconds over Daniel Knight. It was very close between the two of them for the first wow, for the first 10 laps of this race, but then Bradley started to be able to pull the gap on Daniel as Daniel's tires went out. Then we go back to Mark Kalin, who's been running very consistently in that third spot, but consistently about a second to a second and a half slower than the drivers up ahead of him. Currently 18 seconds back of Daniel Knight in that third spot. Then we have Thomas Sink, who's down there in the fourth position. Thomas has been running very consistently as well, but just doesn't quite have the pace of Mark Kalin to gain on him. He is gaining ever since the pit stop, though. He's already made up about 2 seconds to Mark, so look for him to catch up to Mark by the time they get to the end of the race. And then we go down to Blaine Adams, who has had a fairly eventful race himself, but he is the one who has been least afflicted by loss of traction around here. So Blaine Adams currently up in the 5th position after his pit stop. Chris?
You know, touching on Blaine Adams, we just talked about, or excuse me, Paul Johnson that we're talking about here. He's had an eventful race, gone around a couple times, but nonetheless is still running up in the 6th spot. Sizable gap to the front, but he's doing a pretty solid job here once he figured out his limits. Adam Zemke has had an adventurous race in 7th spot. He's been in the mix in just about every battle we've had on the track, and is about to get caught up in another one here with Tristan Callahan, but he's fended off a lot of the charges, and as we look at Tristan Callahan, who was in that chaotic incident on lap number 1 and has been clawing his way back up from the front after having to give up a great starting position. He runs in the 8th spot right now and continues to march back forward. And then you have Brendan Chatley hanging out in the 9th spot. Gave up some spots on the initial start with some incidences, and as you can see, that truck a little bit wrinkled up. But he's another one of those drivers that's quickly learning to respect this track and is in kind gaining some of those spots back. Then Charles Sumner, another driver that unfortunately found himself in the tire barrier at one point today. But as he runs in that Tropicana machine, he's looking to make juice while the sun is up. As he still hangs on to a spot in the back of the top 10, look for him to be very fierce as he has a little bit of a loose moment there coming out of the corner. But look for him to be very fierce and holding on to that final top 10 position.
So that battle between Charles Sumner and Doyle Lawrence tucked in behind him in the 11th spot is one of our closer ones. Mike Richter is a little bit behind him as well, and then we have Brett Adams who's chasing back in the 13th position. So they're all trying to tuck in behind one another. The other closest battle we have on track right now is between Adam Zemke and Tristan Callahan for that 7th position. But Tristan seems to be falling off the back of Zemke significantly over the last couple, the last half lap since we talked about him. So Zemke seems to be able to do a little bit better here on those fresher tires, and I think the damage on Tristan Callahan's truck is starting to plague him a bit.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't talked about it too much, but I mean, you got to think he did go long ways into the tire barrier at the end of the wall, and your truck's not going to walk away from that in the same state that it went into it. So Callahan really battling back from that kind of damage is even more impressive.
And look at this chaos here for P11. This is tense moments. This is between Doyle Lawrence and Mike Richter, and they have the lap truck of Jose Medina and Nicholas Hunter tucked in this as well. This is some tense stuff as they head up towards the chicane. This is probably some of the closest racing. Oh, Charles Sumner clobbering those curbs. He's going to miss the chicane altogether. This is going to give Doyle Lawrence and Mike Richter an opportunity to go by, as Charles Sumner is going to have to serve that cut course penalty.
I got to say, Doyle Lawrence has been one of the luckier drivers in that chicane. He nearly got ran over, but didn't just a few laps ago, and now is going to gain at least one position on Charles Sumner there.
Well, Doyle Lawrence racing for those riding shotgun guys. You know that they would like some points on the board to try and keep away from that second Whataback team. So he's definitely going to be trying to continue to prove the gap. But Charles Sumner, he's probably get a little bit frustrated. Oh my goodness, you can see Mike Richter get very loose off of the corner there. He's able to save that machine as he's trying to chase down Doyle Lawrence up ahead of them.
Yeah, and Mike Richter still trying to keep contact with Lawrence, but it looks like a several truck length lead right now. Lawrence gets a pretty good run out of the corner, though, for him to try to make up as much room as possible as we follow along here behind him.
And that's Brett Adams who's caught up to the back of these guys. He's very good on the brakes until he overdoes it, at which point then he usually runs pretty deep. But here we go through turns 1 and 2 of the NASCAR circuit. Tucked in behind Mike Richter is Charles Sumner and Brett Adams as they're looking on to one another. Brett has not had the best track record going into the bus stop chicane, so he's going to back out of it. Charles Sumner takes it very deep there. He's going to be a little bit slow through the bus stop chicane. He manages to get a decent exit, though, and now he's right up tucked in behind Mike Richter.
Yeah, as this race has gone on, Adam, it's been kind of funny to watch some of these guys that maybe cooked it into those chicanes earlier on in the race. You watch them now that we're about 9 laps to go. You watch them, they just tiptoe in nice and gingerly. And you definitely can tell this course has humbled some of these drivers.
Oh, yeah, you can see that right there. Look at this, Charles Sumner with a great run on Mike Richter. He might look to the inside or the outside coming into turn 1. He can't really decide where to go at the moment. Here they come into the braking zone. He's actually going to back out just a little bit there. He's going to try and hope that Mike Richter takes it too deep. He tries the over-under, but Mike Richter actually managed the braking zone quite well there, so Charles Sumner has to stay right behind him. Oh, wow, this is very close, almost an overlap as they go through that sector there. That's the 109 of Nicholas Hunter, who is parked on the side of the road. He's a lap truck and unfortunately had another self-spin, so he will recover and try and get back out on track. But Charles Sumner is definitely putting the pressure on Mike Richter, and Mike Richter has been able to catch up to Doyle Lawrence in this intersection. Here they come once again. Oh, Charles Sumner, you can see him getting loose right in behind. We're on board right now with Mike Richter looking backwards, and that was Charles Sumner going a little bit deep to the corner. Brett Adams tried to recover from that and try and take the position, but he can't do so, so now they spread out once again.
By the way, look at how crazy that transition is from the flat infield course up to the 31 degrees of banking. This track really does throw everything at you.
And if you thought everything was getting intense down there, take a look at P6. This is Adam Zemke and Tristan Callahan, as well as Paul Johnson up there in the 8th position right now. They've been swapping positions for the last lap, and they've been getting very argy-bargy with each other, making door-to-door contact as well. Tristan Callahan and Adam Zemke are starting to streak away from Paul Johnson. But Paul just a little bit better onto the brakes into these sweeping corners than the 2 drivers up ahead of him.
Yeah, Zemke once again making some moves, and it's working out great for him, but still Tristan Callahan continues to claw his way back up towards the top. It's a very tenacious drive from truck 77.
Zemke going a little bit deep into those corners now that the tires are starting to wear off here. And here they go side by side through the kink. This is a scary moment. Tristan's going to back out of it just a little bit. He tries to keep the overlap, but can't quite do so. That's Adam Zemke deep into the corner once again. Way too deep into the corner. He washes out to the outside of the track. Tristan Callahan tries to get the overlap on him. Is able to do so. Here they go into the braking zone. Going back out onto the circuit. This is one of the bumpiest, tightest braking zones out there. Tristan's trying to hold it on the outside with Adam Zemke on the inside. Tristan Callahan getting the power down on that truck, managing to keep the rear end, and they're going to go side by side through 1 and 2.
Tristan Callahan on the outside. Looks like he's going to drop down, fall back in line behind the 42 of Zemke. As they now head down the back straightaway of the oval track, they're going to head into the bus stop. And Callahan looks high, now going to try to pull along to the outside. Oh, they make contact!
Tristan Callahan just a little bit too deep on the brakes, gets the rears locked up, and that sends him into the door of Adam Zemke. He has to go straight through the chicane, which means a cut course penalty. He'll drop in behind Adam Zemke. Fortunately, it was door to front left contact, so both of those trucks should be okay to keep running here. But here's Paul Johnson licking his chops and looking at Tristan Callahan, hoping that he can make it by. Nothing doing as they get that new chicane. Wow, Tristan very loose on the brakes. He needs to make some brake bias adjustment, it looks like.
Yeah, the back end really sliding out from underneath him now. Looks like, I guess you could say maybe the good starting to wear off the tires on the 77. Callahan looks like a cow on ice skates out there.
Paul Johnson into the inside of the corner. He's able to hold it right there and is able to get past Tristan Callahan with all of Callahan's aggressiveness. Unfortunately, it's not paying off as he can't keep that truck straight under braking. Whoa, it's very close between the two of them as they head into the next set of corners. Paul Johnson had to cover off Tristan Callahan, which gave him a disadvantage on exit. Callahan's going to try and keep the overlap as they go into the kink, but Paul Johnson with a better exit moves over to the right and is able to move ahead.
This is some great racing we've had towards the middle of the top 10 of this field. Callahan still keeping in touch with the 14. At this point, I think he can smell what...
Yo!
Oh, and no, Callahan goes off course into the grass. He's going to try to rejoin the track, but he's going to give up a couple spots there.
So Callahan officially out of that fight, unfortunately. So that was very tight between the two of them. Here is the moment it happened. This is between Mike Richter and Brett Adams, actually. This is a very similar looking battle right in behind them. This is for the 11th position. Mike Richter with a little bit of a better corner is able to get onto the power faster. Brett Adams is trying to cling to the outside of that traction zone. And you gotta, it's one of the most interesting corners in racing, in my opinion, is that exit back out onto the NASCAR oval. Because you may think by getting a little bit of an early apex, you can get a little bit more power down early, but you end up finding yourself just on the edge of traction when you go around that corner.
Yeah, it's a really almost deceptively tricky turn there, and it's definitely one it's easy to take wrong.
So as they go back out onto the oval after taking the bus stop chicane, Brett Adams is gaining a little bit on Mike Richter here. But Mike sticking it down to the bottom of the track. He's going to take a little bit more of a drastic move out to the outside and try and break in a little bit of an arc here for the new chicane, and it doesn't pay off. He gets a little bit loose coming out. This gives an opportunity to Brett Adams. They both lose a little bit of traction coming off the corner, but Brett Adams is to the inside as they cross the stripe, this time by 6 laps to go. Still side by side here as they go into 1 and 2. Brett Adams is able to break a little bit later, but can he hold it as they go through the twisty section headed up towards the next corner? Yes, he can. He holds it fairly well here. But now they got Charles Sumner tucked in behind them once again.
Yeah, Sumner definitely one you still want to keep your eye on here as he closes in on the back of Richter. Looks like the 23 goes a bit wide, so that's going to open the door for Richter again to challenge for the position.
So Brett Adams still struggling to get the front end of that truck pointed towards the corners, the center of the corners there, as we see Mike Richter takes a little bit of a wide line through that corner there. And look at that, Charles Sumner getting a little bit loose in behind them as well. So all these drivers really starting to struggle with traction here as we get later on in this run.
Yeah, Sumner still trying to keep within striking distance of the 51 of Richter. You know, Adam, one thing I do want to touch on as we watch these laps wind down is what an amazingly diverse schedule that these trucks have had this season. They made a few changes. They made a few last-minute changes along the way, and we've seen this really turn into quite a unique schedule these guys have ran.
Yeah, it's been awesome to see them run this schedule. It's been awesome to see the NASCAR C-Class Series run this schedule on the official iRacing service as well. So all these drivers who have been running that official series as well as this league have been getting a ton of experience as far as different disciplines are concerned. But look at this, Mike Richter with a great speed on Brett Adams, but he backs out of it a little bit going into the chicane. I think he's going to hope to try and get a good exit here and beat Mike Richter off, but it looks like they both take it a little bit too deep. Here comes Charles Sumner with an opportunity after getting a good chicane. He's going to look to the inside of Mike Richter for 12. So here they go to the inside. Charles Sumner gets the overlap and gets the job done. And now he's up looking up the rear tailpipe of Brett Adams and trying to challenge for that 11th position.
Yeah, Sumner able to move up in line, but now he is definitely going to want to close that gap as quick as possible as the laps are starting to wind down. And again, a couple different interpretations of that corner. The 23 once again seems to go a little bit wider, and that allows the 98 to close the door.
Yeah, I think if the 23 could figure out that corner a little bit better, he might be free and clear of these guys. The other corner he doesn't quite have figured out is this one. As you can see, goes quite a bit wider. It doesn't look like he's braking in a straight line, and that might be something that's affecting his brake capacity going into the corners.
Yeah, that will.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. The 23 goes way off course. That's going to definitely open the door for Sumner to now pull alongside as and head back out onto the oval track.
And Brett Adams actually stays up high, which gives Sumner the shorter way around the track, and under acceleration, that's going to give him a good opportunity as they head towards the bus stop chicane. I would expect that Brett Adams is actually letting Sumner by here because he's feeling a little bit nervous about his braking. Here they go into braking into the bus stop chicane. Charles Sumner well free and clear of Brett Adams. Now we've got Mike Richter challenging Brett behind him.
Yeah, continuation of this great three-truck battle we've had for the position, with the 98 now leading the charge amongst these three. But you got to think Mike Richter is definitely going to want to get back up in the mix here, especially if one of these two maybe, I think of the 23 might make a move there. If one of these two makes a mistake ahead of him.
Ooh, Charles Sumner took it a little bit deep into the chicane that time, but not a better exit from Brett Adams behind them. Mike Richter with a good exit, but unfortunately I don't think he's going to have enough speed to do anything with it by the time they go into the braking zone for one. But Brett Adams brakes a little bit early. Mike Richter has to take a second stab at the brakes there, as Brett is actually going to go a little bit deep into the corner like he has done a couple of times before. Another battle that started to heat up, Chris, is that battle for 5th position. Blaine Adams trying to hold off Adam Zemke and Paul Johnson. They've got the lap truck of Aaron Webb in that green machine tucked in behind them as well.
And Blaine Adams up there in the 5th position has really kind of ran a race all by himself. This is first time in quite a while we've seen him have to take on a challenge of this magnitude. And, you know, Adam Zemke has been digging out there and really starting to get this course down, and he's been very quick. And now that he's able to run him down, Adams may have his work cut out for him.
There you see the position gained and lost. You can see how many positions Doyle Lawrence has gained there in the 10th spot. He's up 25 spots from that last starting spot on the grid. Look at this blow. Blaine Adams going very deep into the bus stop chicane. Here's the opportunity from Adam Zemke to get by. He's going to get by, and he's going to drag Paul Johnson with him, but Paul Johnson with a great run as well. Can he do anything going into the chicane? He's going to look to the high side.
I'm interested to see where Paul Johnson decides to go here, Adam.
Ooh, Paul a little bit deep into the corner, and that's going to give an opportunity to Blaine Adams to get him back if he could get a good exit. Unfortunately, Blaine cannot, and that's going to mean that Zemke is free and clear, and Charles Sumner is way off track on the exit of the bus stop.
Yeah, he definitely did not do that right.
We're going to take a replay of this one because this is a classic exit of the bus stop chicane. Now with these trucks, he manages to keep out of the wall, but any other high downforce machine, and he would have been straight into that inside wall. Here we go. He clips this curb here and ends up just shooting him left. Takes his little adventure through the grass and gets back on track, but unfortunately, that's about the 3rd time he's had an off-track excursion, and that's going to put him down in the 14th spot.
That's definitely a tough rank for Sumner, who was doing a great job towards the back of the top 10. Unfortunately, that's definitely going to make his work a lot harder.
For those of you who are wondering why we have not been covering Bradley Holly in the lead, Bradley is currently at a 5-second gap over Daniel Knight for the lead of the race, and he does not look to be waning. Whoa. Pardon me. I just saw Blaine Adams pull over to the side of the road and stop his truck. Looked like he might have had a slight connection issue. He's getting back going again, but that was not in-sim related. So he is getting back going, but unfortunately, that's going to lose him some significant track position and time.
We're taking a look up front here with Bradley Holly, who's just done a tremendous job in this race, really showing his muscle on the road course.
Yeah, Bradley still with a 4.5-second gap over Daniel Knight. Daniel was able to get a little bit of time on him as Bradley was held up behind Nicholas Hunter. But Bradley Holly, we're going to stay on board with him as he goes on to the banking here. And he really has a good opportunity to take another win and to really put Daniel Knight almost a full wins length down behind him in the points championship going into the final round. Bradley Holly coming out of NASCAR 1 and 2 on his penultimate lap right now. He has just been a masterclass today. Another fantastic pit stop and some great race pace and managing of those tires, and he's out there in the lead in a good position to grab another win.
And I definitely think a huge call out to Daniel Knight in that second position as well. As we close in on these laps, Daniel Knight greatly improved his time from the start of practice to where we are in the race. Set fast time in qualifying, and has really done a great job learning this track and really put in some great quality performance. Probably going to have to settle for the runner-up position, but still Daniel Knight did a tremendous job today and definitely deserves some credit for that as well.
So Bradley Holly starts his white flag lap this time around, just going through turn 1 right now, trying to manage the traction. It's not as easy as it looks out there for these drivers. We still have a couple battles that are still going on around the track. One is for 5th position between Adam Zemke and Paul Johnson. They're just coming up to the bus stop chicane now, so they will have another lap and a half to go. And Adam Zemke really struggling with those tires. Paul as well. Paul gets a good exit here. He's going to look to the inside of the corner here as they go through NASCAR 3 and 4.
Yeah, Johnson on the inside of the track. Looks like he is going to be able to slip by.
Zemke braking a little bit early there. This chicane is really catching a lot of drivers out, and wow, they almost go nose to tail there as they come out of the corner, but Paul Johnson actually holding up Zemke is able to let him snake away. Back to Bradley Holly. He is back on the banking for the final time in 1 and 2. Just such a commanding lead that he has over Daniel Knight, and gaining a second and a half of that in the pit stops. I mean, how do you catch this guy?
Yeah, Daniel Knight just has not turned a wheel wrong this entire time. Very impressive performance here by our defending champion.
So Bradley Holly coming out of 3 and 4. Remember, he will have that new chicane to tackle, but once he tackles it, he will be a winner here at Daytona. He snakes his way through, taking it a little bit more cautiously this time, and now gets on the power nice and smooth. And Bradley Holly will take the win here for the first race for the PRL NASCAR trucks here at the Daytona NASCAR Road Course. Daniel Knight will come home in second, and here is Mark Kalin. This is the gap back to Mark Kalin. It was nearly 40 seconds between Bradley Holly and Mark Kalin here coming through NASCAR 3 and 4. You can see just how much of a class of a field that Bradley Holly and Daniel Knight were as Mark Kalin comes up to that final chicane. Thomas Sink 15 seconds behind him. Mark Kalin navigates it well. Let's see whether he gets on the power smoothly. And he does, and he will come home with the 3rd spot here. Mark Kalin finishing out our podium here at the Daytona NASCAR Road Course with the PRL trucks. Battle's not over yet for that 5th position, though. Adam Zemke tucked in behind Paul Johnson as they go into the chicane.
Yeah, I was expecting the chicane to get a little spicy between these two. It looks like Johnson's going to be able to hold it out, and he will take the position over Adam Zemke to complete our top 5.
Well, we have quite a few drivers who still have yet to finish, but this is Charles Sumner who's trying to recover from his latest spin. He's chased down Brandon Walter in the 13th position. So the two of them, as they go on to NASCAR 3 and 4, looks like Charles just not a great exit out of the bus stop chicane. He just has been his Achilles heel all day, and unfortunately, I believe, unless Brandon Walter makes a mistake through the final chicane, that will be the gap he needs. Brandon very slow through the final chicane. Here they come off the exit, and Brandon Walter gets a decent exit. That's going to be good enough. Brandon Walter will hold on to 13th. 14th will go to Charles Sumner. And Austin Hunter, 7 seconds behind, will finish out 15th position. And I believe those will be your finishing drivers on the lead lap. So we are going to take a short break here on the GSRC. And don't go anywhere because we'll have those unofficial results for you as well as some driver interviews. So just hang on. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Precision Racing League NASCAR Truck Series, sponsored by WEBB Hearing Centers, and they took a real challenge here at the new Daytona NASCAR road course. Well, I say new, but it just has one extra chicane to it. But Bradley Holly takes the win pretty commandingly over Daniel Knight. That gap was up to 5 seconds, 5.5 seconds actually, before Daniel brought it down in the final lap. Mark Kalin, though, 40 seconds back in third position, rounds out your podium. Then we have Thomas Sink, who finished nearly a minute off the time, with Paul Johnson a minute 03 off, rounding out your top 5. Then we have Adam Zemke, who was able to come home just a little bit behind Paul Johnson, with Tristan Callahan in the 7th spot, with Brendan Chatley in 8th, and Blaine Adams and Doyle Lawrence up 15 positions, rounds out your top 10.
Just outside of the top 10 was Brett Adams, who had an adventurous day, with Mike Richter coming home right behind him. Brandon Walter hanging on to a solid 13th place finish after a late challenge from Charles Sumner, who settles for 14th. Austin Hunter in the 312 was our final competitor on the lead lap, with Stacy Hunter, Adam Young, and Matthew Aubrey all 1 lap down, completing our top 20. Both 2 laps down was Nicholas Hunter and then Doug Evans in the 41.
Yeah, Doug Evans actually had a connection issue, which is why he ended up 2 laps down in that machine. Aaron Webb, Jose Medina, Baron Hilton, Colton Lane, William Lee, and Christopher B. Williams round out your field tonight. All of those drivers had some more significant issues, but we are talking to Bradley Holly. Bradley, looks like you were just up there managing your pace. I mean, Daniel was keeping you honest, but to be honest, it didn't look like that much of a challenge. How was it behind the wheel, though?
It was tough. Daniel was right there with me throughout practice all week, and I focused on managing my rear tires and noticed that probably 4 or 5 laps into the first run that I was going to have a little bit better tires at the end of the run. So just try to manage it.
Yeah, it looks like you were doing a good job, and it looks like you managed your tires better than Daniel. He did start to fall off after about 10 laps into that run. But were you worried about him making an undercut there, or were you both more or less planning to come in at the same time?
I mean, if he did an undercut, that may have probably worked it into my advantage even more. With how much the fall off was, I was going to be quicker than him for a longer time. But it was, it was a good challenge. He definitely did keep me honest the whole time.
So this gives you a pretty significant points lead going into the final round, which is going to be at Worldwide Technology Speedway. What are your thoughts heading into that final round?
Got to keep my nose clean and try to have some fun.
All right, Bradley. Well, thanks for talking to us, and congrats on the win. It's a great new track, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you very much.
That was Bradley Hollery, our winner today, and our current championship points leader. And next up will be Daniel Knight talking to Chris Phoebe.
Well, Daniel, you led some laps there early on, but looks like Bradley Holly was quite a challenge out there for you guys.
Yeah, as I kind of expected him to be. Yeah, towards the latter half of that race, I was just giving it everything that I had, and just wasn't quite good enough. But I mean, Brad is always such a good challenge to race against, and he's always right up there. So definitely wasn't surprised for him to be that dominant.
Now, you guys came out of last week's race expecting us to be at Watkins Glen this weekend. Obviously, we pivoted and ended up coming to this track. How much of a monkey wrench did it put in your plans having to switch courses like that?
Well, thankfully, Charles and the rest of the guys in the league are good at communicating this. So we actually got word a few weeks ago that this was going to be the change, and that gave us time to really start practicing this track a lot. I might have enjoyed being at Watkins Glen a little bit more. I like that track a lot, but yeah, thankfully they're always pretty forthcoming with information, so we had a good amount of time to practice.
Now, with the adjustments made to this track for the NASCAR setup, what do you think of this somewhat revised Daytona road course?
I think it's fun. It's a good track. I mean, it's kind of like the Charlotte Roval now, almost identical as far as layouts, but just a bit bigger and faster. A lot more technical in these cars. I've run here in the GT3 cars and the HPD a few times, and those are kind of spoil you with really good brakes and a lot of downforce. So coming here was an exercise in throttle control and brake control, which is always a fun thing to try to nail down.
All right, Daniel, and anybody you'd like to thank that helped make your race possible today?
Yeah, all the Riding Shotgun guys, you guys for putting on an awesome broadcast, and PRL for putting on an awesome league. So I'm excited to see next season and go for that year-long championship.
All right, thanks, Daniel. That's Daniel Knight, our runner-up finisher today, and back to you, Adam.
Yep, next up we're going to be talking to Thomas Sink, who finished in the 4th position. Thomas, looked like a really rough time out there today. Just tough to keep the tires underneath you. Talk me through your race.
Yeah, the Wetterback Chevy, just not my type of race. I've never been very strong at road courses, and it felt like you go in the corner, and I don't know what the other guys were experienced, but I downshift in the rear. I get a lot of wheel hop going into the corner, where it would make it hard for me to turn into the corner. Then once I hit the center of the corner, it would stiffen tight, and then you'd throttle off, and it would just rip the rear tires loose, and it was very unpredictable. It felt like you're on ice the entire race.
Yeah, the struggles of driving a NASCAR machine on the road course is very true, but talk me through the tires. Did they give out towards the end of that run, or was it pretty consistent for you as far as what you were experiencing in the truck?
Yeah, the tire degradation was pretty extreme. So you go out lap 1 on fresh tires and pretty much almost mat it up off the corner. You get a little wheel spin, but not much. Lap 2, and you were spinning the tires pretty good, and I would say it was a 13 or 12 lap stint there. I was just like I said, I was on ice. I could barely get in the throttle. I could barely downshift when I wanted to. It was just not my type of race, not my type of setup. It was just really, really, really slick.
So next week we head to Worldwide Technology Speedway, an oval but a relatively flat one for our season finale. What are your hopes going into that race?
Hopefully a top 5 and get all the Wetterback guys up there in the top 5. Mark did a great job today. I want to give a shout out to him for finishing, was that 3rd there. It's just going to be another flat track where we're going to have to, bump doors, bump each other out of the way, and hopefully get away with a good top 5 finish.
Absolutely, Thomas. But is there anyone you want to thank for your 4th place finish today?
Yeah, Wetterback Racing, Trading Paints, Paul 48 Designs, Stars and Stripes Realty. Brad does all the sponsorship. My girlfriend at home watching with the family, and then you guys, of course. You guys put on a great presentation. I always enjoy it.
All right, Thomas. Well, thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you race next week for the finale.
Sounds good. See you guys.
That was Thomas Sink, our 4th place finisher, and that's actually going to close us out tonight. But before we go, we want to let you know that GSRC has available advertising options for you. This channel boasts over 1 million global monthly impressions. Our branding opportunities include official series sponsorships, ad reads, race awards, and more. So if you want to know more, follow that link in the description of our YouTube video and get in contact with us. We'd love to hear from you. We want to give a big thank you to the Precision Racing League for bringing us on for another season, and a big thank you to this season's sponsor and the series sponsor, that is WEBB Hearing Centers, WEBB with 2 B's. You can find out more about them in the description below, or you can visit them at webhearingcenters.com. That is WEBB with 2 B's, hearingcenters.com. We also want to give a big thanks to ButtKicker for sponsoring the entire league for this season. We want to give a thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts that are going to be listed here on your screen. And as always, we want to give many thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our bump and music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to today's crew, Joe, Chris, and Dougie. If you want to find out more about GSRC, including our upcoming races, you can find us at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. And if you'd like to support the channel, go check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storeenvy.com. That link is also in the description below. If you want to see more racing action, hit that big red subscribe button, as long as it's red, as well, so that you won't miss a moment here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Now, next race for these guys will be the series finale. That is at Worldwide Technology Raceway, August 19th at 8:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You won't want to miss it. These guys got real spicy during the season finale last year, and it looks like they're going to do it again here. Alright, we also have upcoming races for other series that are listed on your screen, so go check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until then, we hope you've enjoyed joining us tonight as much as we've enjoyed bringing this racing to you. And we hope to see you back on our channel soon. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.